She had given up on dreams, accepted her fate. Then one random YouTube video at 3 a.m. asked her a question she couldn't ignore. What if there's another way? The fluorescent lights of the Goldman & Associates law office hummed their usual midnight song, and Sarah Martinez pushed her cleaning cart past the mahogany desks, each one probably worth more than her entire monthly salary. Her back ached, her knees protested with every step, and somewhere between the conference room and the senior partner's office, she had lost count of how many floors she had already cleaned. 3:17 a.m. The green numbers on the microwave in the break room glared at her like an accusation. Sarah collapsed into one of the leather chairs, the kind that probably cost more than her rent, and pulled out her phone. The cracked screen reflected her tired face back at her, and for a moment she barely recognized the woman staring back. When had those lines around her eyes gotten so deep? When had her dark hair started showing so much gray? Her phone buzzed. A text from Emma, her 15-year-old daughter. "Mom, can I get new shoes for school? Mine have a hole. Everyone notices." Sarah's chest tightened. She typed back with trembling fingers. "We'll figure it out, baby. Love you. Get some sleep." Then came the notification she had been dreading. Bank alert. Account balance 4723. Overdraft warning. "Perfect," Sarah muttered, rubbing her temples. Just perfect. The rent was due in 5 days. $450 short. The electricity bill sat unopened in her purse because she was too afraid to see the red warnings. And her 2008 Honda Civic had started making a grinding noise that sounded expensive. The kind of expensive that meant choosing between fixing the car or eating decent meals for a week. Sarah had worked as a night cleaner for 3 years now, ever since the divorce from Richard. He had moved to California with his new girlfriend, sent the occasional child support check when he remembered, and somehow managed to make her feel like the failure in their marriage. She had given up her dreams of becoming a teacher to support his career, and when it all fell apart, she found herself at 42 with no degree, no savings, and a teenage daughter depending on her. "You are not going to cry," she whispered to herself, blinking hard. "Not here, not now." She pulled up YouTube on her phone, looking for something, anything, to distract her for the 15-minute break she allowed herself. Usually she watched cooking videos, dreams of meals she could not afford to make, or sometimes home renovation shows, imagining a house that did not have peeling paint and a leaky faucet she had tried to fix with duct tape. But tonight, her thumb slipped. Instead of her usual subscriptions, she accidentally clicked on a video in her recommended feed. "How I Made $3,000 My First Month Reselling on eBay. Complete Beginner's Guide." Sarah almost scrolled past it. These kinds of videos were everywhere, weren't they? Get-rich-quick schemes. Too good to be true. She had learned the hard way that nothing in life came easy, especially not money. But something made her pause. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the way the woman in the thumbnail looked ordinary. Not some 20-year-old influencer or tech bro, but a regular person, tired eyes and all. Sarah pressed play. "Hey everyone, I'm Jennifer, and 6 months ago I was working 2 jobs and barely making ends meet." Sarah turned up the volume, glancing toward the door to make sure no one was coming. Her supervisor, Hector, usually did his rounds at 3:30, which gave her another 10 minutes. The woman on the screen talked about finding items at thrift stores, garage sales, even clearance sections at regular stores, then reselling them online for profit. She showed her phone screen scrolling through sales. A vintage jacket bought for $8 sold for $65. A set of collectible mugs, $3 at a yard sale, sold for $40. "The key is research," Jennifer said, holding up her phone. "I use this app to scan barcodes right there in the store. If it is profitable, I buy it. If not, I move on. Simple as that." Sarah felt something stir in her chest. Not quite hope. She had learned to be suspicious of hope. But maybe curiosity? "Yeah, right," she muttered. If it were that easy, everyone would be doing it. But she kept watching. Jennifer showed her modest apartment, her supplies neatly organized in a corner. She talked about her mistakes, the items that did not sell, the time she lost money on shipping. She was honest about the work involved, the learning curve, the late nights packing boxes. "It is not magic," Jennifer said, looking directly at the camera. "It is work. But it is work that you control. And for me that has made all the difference." The video ended, and Sarah sat in the quiet break room, the hum of the building's HVAC system the only sound. Outside the window, Houston's downtown skyline glittered with lights from buildings where people made more in an hour than she made in a week. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Emma. "Sorry to bother you at work. Never mind about the shoes. I love you." That message hurt more than any bill, any overdraft notice, any grinding noise from her dying car. Sarah looked down at her cleaning supplies, at her worn shoes, at her hands rough from chemicals and hard work. She thought about her daughter trying to hide the holes in her shoes, about the parent-teacher conference she had missed last month because she could not get time off, about the way Emma had stopped asking her to come to school events because she knew her mum was always too tired, too broke, too stretched thin. "What do I have to lose?" Sarah whispered. She bookmarked the video. Then she searched for more videos on reselling, on thrift store flipping, on making money online. Her 15-minute break turned into 20, then 25. She knew she would have to work faster to make up the time, but she could not stop watching. By the time her shift ended at 6 a.m., Sarah Martinez had watched 17 videos, taken notes on the back of a cleaning supplies invoice, and made a decision that terrified her. She was going to try this. Not because she believed it would work, she was too beaten down for blind faith, but because the alternative was staying exactly where she was, drowning slowly, watching her daughter suffer for her failures. The sunrise over Houston was spectacular that morning, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reminded Sarah of better days. She sat in her car in the parking garage, too tired to drive home yet, and pulled up the video one more time. "Okay, Jennifer," she said to the screen. "Let us see if you are for real." Her phone battery was at 3%. Her bank account was at $47. Her hope was somewhere in between. But Sarah Martinez was about to learn that sometimes the biggest changes in life start at 3 in the morning, in a break room with a cracked phone screen and nothing left to lose. She started her car, listened to the ominous grinding noise, and headed home to her daughter, carrying a tiny seed of possibility in her exhausted heart. Sarah had exactly 3 hours of sleep before Emma's alarm went off at 9 a.m. She dragged herself out of bed, made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, the same thing they had eaten for the past week because it was cheap, and tried to look like a functional human being. "Mom, you look terrible," Emma said, not unkindly, as she poured herself orange juice from the nearly empty carton. "Thanks, sweetie. You really know how to make a woman feel special," Sarah replied, managing a smile. Emma laughed, that beautiful sound that made every sleepless night worth it. She was beautiful, Sarah's daughter, with Richard's blue eyes but Sarah's determination. She had inherited the best parts of both of them, which was more than could be said for the marriage itself. "Seriously, though, did you sleep at all?" "A little," Sarah lied. "I have some errands to run today. Need anything besides, everything?" Emma's smile faded slightly. "Mom, I was joking about the shoes." "Mine are fine." "Emma, really, they are—" "Baby, I saw the picture you posted on Instagram last week. I can see the hole." Emma blushed. "You follow my Instagram? I am your mother, not dead. Of course I follow your Instagram." Sarah reached across their small kitchen table and squeezed Emma's hand. "Give me a little time, okay? I am working on something." After Emma left for school, walking because Sarah needed the car and the bus was free with Emma's student pass, Sarah sat at the kitchen table with her phone and the notes she had scribbled the night before. The plan was simple, at least in theory. Go to Goodwill, find items worth reselling, list them online, make money, pay bills, save daughter from shoes with holes. In practice, Sarah had no idea what she was doing. She pulled up her bank account one more time. $47.23. The rent was due in 5 days, and she was $450 short. The electricity bill was $213. The car, she did not even want to think about the car. "Okay," Sarah said to her empty apartment, "let us say I spend $20 at Goodwill. If I can turn that into 60, then I can spend that 60 on more items, turn it into 180. She did the math on her phone's calculator, and by her estimates, if everything went perfectly, which nothing ever did, she could maybe, possibly, theoretically, make enough in 2 weeks to cover her rent. It was insane. It was desperate. It was all she had. Sarah grabbed her purse, ignored the check engine light that had been glowing on her dashboard for 3 weeks, and drove to the Goodwill on Westheimer Road, near the Galleria area. She had driven past it 1,000 times, but had never actually gone inside, always too proud, too embarrassed, too something. The store smelled like old books and laundry detergent, a strange combination that was not entirely unpleasant. Sarah stood in the entrance, overwhelmed by racks of clothes, shelves of knickknacks, and absolutely no idea where to start. An elderly employee with a name tag that said Dolores smiled at her. "First time here, honey?" "That obvious." "You have the look." "Don, not worry, everyone gets it. What are you looking for?" Sarah almost said, "Shoes for my daughter," but stopped herself. "Just browsing." She pulled out her phone and opened the scanner app Jennifer had mentioned in the video, the free trial version, because of course the good version cost money, and money was exactly what she did not have. Sarah started in the electronics section, scanning barcodes on old DVD players, video game controllers, random cables. The app beeped and showed values, but nothing impressive. Most items were worth less than what Goodwill was charging. Then she scanned a set of vintage Nintendo controllers. The app showed average selling price, $45. Goodwill's price tag, $3.99. Sarah's heart jumped. This was it. Her first find. She grabbed the controllers like they were made of gold, then immediately second-guessed herself. What if the app was wrong? What if they did not work? What if... "Stop it," she whispered. "Just trust the process." She moved to the clothing section, where she was more comfortable. Years of shopping clearance sales had given her an eye for quality fabric. She found a North Face jacket, barely worn, for $12. The app showed similar jackets selling for $70 to $90. Sarah's hands were actually shaking as she added it to her cart. By the time she reached the checkout counter, she had spent exactly $19.47 on 6 items: the Nintendo controllers, the North Face jacket, a pair of vintage cowboy boots that screamed Texas, a set of Pyrex bowls, and 2 hardcover books that the app said were collectible. "Good haul today," Dolores said, scanning her items. "You one of those reseller people?" Sarah felt her face flush. Maybe." Dolores laughed, a warm sound. "Honey, no shame in it. Half our customers are resellers now. You make your money however you can. God knows the world does not make it easy for folks like us." Sarah paid with cash. She did not trust her debit card not to bounce, and walked out to her car with a plastic bag full of other people's discarded things and a stomach full of anxiety. Now came the hard part, actually selling this stuff. Back home, Sarah spread her purchases on the living room floor and stared at them. She had watched videos about taking good photos, writing descriptions, pricing items, but watching videos and actually doing it were 2 very different things. She created an eBay account. Username, Sarah Second Chance. Subtle, she muttered to herself. The first listing took her 45 minutes. The North Face jacket. She took photos in natural light by the window, measured every dimension, described every detail, checked and rechecked the spelling. When she finally hit list item, she felt like she had just submitted a college thesis. 5 items later, she was exhausted and had only listed half her inventory. Her back hurt from bending over items on the floor. Her eyes burned from staring at her phone screen, and she had no idea if any of it would actually sell. Emma came home from school and found her mother surrounded by random objects, taking photos of cowboy boots from every conceivable angle. "Mom, what are you doing?" Sarah looked up, suddenly aware of how ridiculous she must look. "I am starting a business. A business selling old boots and other things. It is called reselling. People buy items cheap and sell them for more online." Emma sat down on the couch, dropping her backpack. "Does it work?" "I have absolutely no idea," Sarah admitted, "but I am going to find out." Emma was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "Is this because of my shoes?" "No," Sarah said, then corrected herself. "Yes, maybe, partially. Honestly, baby, it is because of everything. The rent, the bills, the car that sounds like it is digesting rocks. I am tired of us just barely surviving. I want us to actually live. Mom, I do not need fancy stuff. I know you do not need it. But you deserve it. You deserve shoes without holes and college without debt, and a mother who is not too exhausted to come to your school play." Emma's eyes got shiny. I do not blame you for missing stuff. I know, but I blame me. Sarah stood up and hugged her daughter. So I am trying something new. It might fail spectacularly. I might lose the $20 I spent today, but at least I am trying. That night, Sarah went to work at the law office, but her mind was on her phone. She checked her listings every 10 minutes during her shift. No sales, no messages, nothing. By 3 a.m., doubt had settled in like an old friend. Of course this would not work. Of course she had wasted $20 they could not afford to waste. What had she been thinking? Then, at 3:42 a.m., while she was scrubbing a conference room table, her phone buzzed. Notification, your item has sold. North Face jacket, women's large, $74.99. Sarah actually gasped out loud. She read the notification 3 times to make sure it was real. $75. Minus eBay fees and shipping, she would clear about $55. On a jacket she had bought for $12. She had made $43 profit in one sale. Sarah sat down right there on the conference room floor, cleaning supplies forgotten, and laughed. Then she cried. Then she laughed again, because she was crying on the floor of a law office at 3 in the morning because of a used jacket. "Are you okay in there?" Hector's voice called from the hallway. "Yes," Sarah shouted back, wiping her eyes. "Just knocked over some cleaning solution." She pulled herself together, finished her shift in record time, and drove home with the radio blaring, some country song about small-town dreams and second chances, and her heart feeling lighter than it had in months. When she got home at dawn, she did not sleep. Instead, she listed her remaining items, then searched for more videos, took more notes, made more plans. Emma found her at the kitchen table, laptop borrowed from a neighbor, surrounded by papers and coffee cups. "Mom, did you sleep at all?" Sarah looked up, grinning like a lunatic. "I made my first sale." "You did?" $43 profit. From one jacket. Emma's face lit up. "That is amazing." "It is a start," Sarah said. Then she pulled out her wallet and handed Emma $60. "Go get yourself some new shoes, good ones. Not the cheapest ones, okay? Mom, you need this money. I need my daughter to have shoes without holes. Go, before I change my mind." Emma took the money and hugged her mother so tight that Sarah's ribs hurt. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank Jennifer and her YouTube video," Sarah said. "And thank your mother's desperate insomnia." As Emma headed off to school, Sarah looked at her remaining listings and made a promise to herself. This was not just about one sale. This was about changing their lives. She just had to figure out how to do it without completely falling apart in the process. 3 weeks into her reselling adventure, Sarah had learned several important lessons. First, not everything sells as fast as a North Face jacket. Second, shipping costs could destroy your profit if you were not careful. Third, taking photos of shiny objects without creating weird reflections of yourself was nearly impossible. That last one she learned after a buyer messaged her. "Nice lamp, but why is there a tired woman in pajamas reflected in it?" Sarah had wanted to crawl under a rock. Instead, she replied, "That is my quality control inspector. She works nights." The buyer had laughed and left 5 stars anyway. Her eBay account now showed 23 sales, total profit of $647. It was not life-changing money, but it was enough to pay the rent on time for the first time in 4 months. The look on her landlord's face when she handed him cash had been priceless. "Everything okay, Miss Martinez?" he had asked, suspicion in his voice. "Everything is fine, Mr. Patterson. Just getting my life together, one used jacket at a time." But success brought new problems. Sarah's apartment was starting to look like a thrift store exploded in it. She had items stacked in corners, inventory lists taped to walls, packing supplies covering the kitchen counter. Emma had started referring to the living room as the warehouse. "Mom, I found a vintage Barbie in my cereal this morning," Emma said one Saturday, holding up the doll. "That is a 1988 Dreamhouse Barbie worth $35, Sarah replied, without looking up from the box she was packing. "Please do not get milk on her." Emma just shook her head and laughed. But Sarah noticed her daughter was smiling more these days. They had gone to Whataburger last week, a real meal out, not just dollar menu items. Emma had gotten a new backpack, not from the clearance section. Small things, normal things. Things that should not feel like victories but did. The problem was sleep, or rather the complete lack of it. Sarah still worked her night shift at the law office, 5 nights a week, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Then she would come home, sleep for 3 hours if she was lucky, and spend the rest of the day hunting for inventory, listing items, packing orders, and answering customer questions. "You look like death," her co-worker Maria said one night, genuine concern in her voice. They were on break, sitting in the same break room where Sarah had first watched Jennifer's video. "Thanks. I'm going for the zombie chic look." "Seriously, Sarah, you are going to make yourself sick. What is going on? You have been acting strange for weeks." Sarah hesitated. She had not told anyone at work about her reselling business. Part of her was embarrassed. What if it failed? What if they laughed at her? But Maria had been kind to her, had covered her shifts when Emma was sick, had slipped her extra cleaning supplies when the company was stingy. "Can you keep a secret?" Sarah asked. "Girl, I have 4 sisters and a mother who runs the gossip network at our church. I am an expert at keeping secrets." So Sarah told her everything. The YouTube video, the goodwill finds, the sales, the crazy hours, the hope that maybe, just maybe, she could build something real. Maria listened without interrupting, then said, "That is either the smartest thing I have ever heard or the craziest." "Maybe both." "Definitely both," Sarah agreed. "But you know what? I am proud of you. Most people just complain about their situation. You are actually doing something about it." Those words carried Sarah through the rest of her shift and into the next week, when everything went spectacularly wrong. It started with a garage sale in West University, one of Houston's wealthy neighborhoods. Sarah had learned that rich people often sold valuable items for nothing, because they simply did not care about the money. She had found designer purses for $5, vintage electronics for pocket change, once even a Rolex watch that turned out to be fake, but that was part of the learning process. This particular Saturday, she hit the jackpot. A vintage leather jacket, clearly expensive, marked at $15. Her scanner app went crazy. Similar jackets were selling for $200 to $300. Sarah's hands shook as she paid for it. This was it. Her biggest flip yet. This one sale could cover 2 months of electricity bills. She rushed home, took perfect photos, wrote a detailed description, and listed it for $249 with free shipping. It sold within an hour. Sarah actually screamed, causing Emma to run out of her bedroom in panic. "What? What happened? Are you okay?" "I just made over $200 profit." Sarah grabbed Emma and spun her around their tiny kitchen. "Mom, put me down, I'm 15, not 5. But Emma was laughing and Sarah was laughing, and for a moment everything was perfect. Then the buyer's message came. "This jacket is fake. I am reporting you to eBay and leaving negative feedback. I want a full refund." Sarah's stomach dropped. She read the message 3 times, her joy evaporating like morning dew in Texas heat. Fake? How could it be fake? She had checked everything, compared it to authentic versions online, examined every detail. She messaged back, "I had no idea it was not authentic. I purchased it at a garage sale and believed it to be genuine. I will refund you immediately. I am so sorry." The buyer's response was brutal. "You are a scammer. I am reporting your account. People like you should not be allowed to sell on here." Sarah sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, feeling the walls close in. A fake. She had sold a fake item. Even though she had not known, even though it was an honest mistake, it did not matter. Her reputation was about to be destroyed before she had barely built it. The refund wiped out her biggest sale. The negative feedback appeared on her account like a scarlet letter. And worst of all, eBay sent her a warning. Another violation could result in account suspension. "Mom?" Emma's voice was soft. "Are you okay?" "I messed up," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "I sold something fake and I did not even know it. Now my account might get shut down and I just lost $200, and I am an idiot who thought she could actually do this." "Stop." Emma sat down next to her. "You made a mistake. One mistake. Do you know how many mistakes I make every single day? Yesterday I put salt in my coffee instead of sugar. The day before I wore my shirt inside out to school. Last week Emma, those are not the same. Mom, you are trying something hard and new. Of course you are going to mess up sometimes. That does not make you an idiot. It makes you human." Emma took her mother's hand. Did you give them their money back? Yes. Did you apologize? Yes. Then you did the right thing. The rest will work out. Sarah looked at her daughter, this wise young woman who somehow had more sense than her mother, and felt tears prick her eyes. When did you get so smart? I have a good teacher, Emma said, squeezing her hand. That night at work, Sarah cleaned the law offices with a heavy heart. She kept checking her phone, expecting more angry messages, more negative reviews, more proof that she had been foolish to think she could change her life. Instead, she found a message from a different buyer, someone who had purchased a vintage cookbook from her last week. Just wanted to let you know this cookbook arrived perfectly. My grandmother had the same one when I was a kid. Opening it brought back so many memories. Thank you for taking such good care with the packaging and shipping. You are a wonderful seller. Sarah read it twice, then saved it in a folder she had started calling Reasons to Keep Going. She thought about Jennifer's video, about how she had mentioned mistakes and failures. Nobody's path was perfect. The question was not whether you would fail, it was whether you would get back up after you did. Sarah pulled out her phone and started researching authentication guides. If she was going to do this, she was going to learn to do it right. No more fakes, no more careless mistakes. By 3 a.m., she had bookmarked 50 articles on spotting counterfeit designer items. By 4 a.m., she had joined 3 Facebook groups for resellers where people shared tips and warnings. By 5 a.m., she had created a checklist for herself. Research every high-value item, ask experts when in doubt, be honest about what she knew and did not know. The mistake had cost her money and pride, but it had also taught her something valuable. This business was not just about finding good deals. It was about integrity, knowledge, and constant learning. When her shift ended, Sarah sat in her car and watched the sunrise paint Houston's skyline in shades of gold and pink. The city was waking up, delivery trucks rumbling past, early commuters heading to work, a whole world of people grinding through another day. She was tired. She was scared. She had made a stupid, expensive mistake. But she was not giving up. Sarah started her grinding car, still making that noise, still unfixed because inventory came before repairs, and headed home to her daughter, her apartment full of other people's treasures, and her second chance at building something better. One careful, authentic, verified item at a time. 2 months after the fake jacket disaster, Sarah had rebuilt her reputation, one 5-star review at a time. Her eBay account now showed 87 sales, a 4.9-star rating, and profit that had climbed to just over $2,000. It was not enough to quit her night job, not even close, but it was enough to breathe a little easier. The grinding noise in her car had finally been fixed. Turned out it was the brakes, which explained why she had been having minor heart attacks every time she drove down a hill. The mechanic, a kind man named Bobby, who ran a shop near her apartment, had given her a discount when she explained she was a single mum trying to make ends meet. "My mama raised me and my 3 brothers alone," he had said, wiping grease off his hands. "I know how hard it is. I will do it for parts and $50 labor." Sarah had almost hugged him. Instead, she had paid him, thanked him profusely, and made a mental note to leave a glowing review online. Small kindnesses. They were everywhere once you started looking. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and Sarah was at an estate sale in the Heights, one of Houston's historic neighborhoods, where old bungalows sat next to renovated mansions. Estate sales were her new favorite hunting ground, entire lifetimes of possessions being sold off, often by family members who just wanted everything gone. This particular estate belonged to someone named Margaret Chen, according to the sign-in sheet. The house smelled like lavender and old books, and Sarah felt a pang of sadness walking through rooms full of someone's memories being picked over by strangers. She was examining a set of vintage cameras when a voice behind her said, "Those are Minolta SRT 101s, worth about $150 each if they are in working condition." Sarah turned to find a man in his 60s, Asian American, with silver hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses. He wore a polo shirt with Chen's Electronics Repair embroidered on it. "Thank you," Sarah said. "I was not sure. I am still learning cameras." "First time at an estate sale?" "No, I have been to a few, but I am always worried I am going to miss something valuable or buy something broken." The man smiled sadly. "This was my mother's house, Margaret Chen. She collected cameras her whole life, even though she could barely see through them toward the end. He picked up one of the Minoltas, turned it over in his hands. These still work. She took good care of everything she owned. Sarah felt her throat tighten. I am so sorry for your loss. Thank you. She was 93, lived a full life, drove me crazy right up until the end. He laughed softly. Are you a collector or a reseller? Sarah hesitated, then decided on honesty. Reseller. I am trying to build a business. Does that bother you? Some people get upset about resellers at estate sales. Why would it bother me? You are running a business. My mother would have respected that. She ran a restaurant for 40 years, worked 6 days a week until she was 80. He extended his hand. David Chen. Sarah Martinez. She shook his hand. Your mother sounds like she was an amazing woman. She was, tough as nails. Came here from Taiwan with nothing. Built a life through pure stubbornness. David looked around the crowded house. I am selling all this because I cannot keep it. I have my own business, my own life. But I want these things to go to people who will appreciate them, who need them, not just people who want cheap decorations for their living room. Something in his voice made Sarah brave. Can I ask you something? How do you know so much about the value of things? 40 years in electronics repair. You learn to recognize quality, to know what is worth saving and what is junk. He looked at her appraisingly. You are new to this reselling thing, are you not? Is it that obvious? You have the look. My daughter tried it for a while. Hard work. Most people quit after a few months. I cannot afford to quit, Sarah said simply. David nodded slowly. Single mother. How did you... I know that look too. My mother had it for years. He pulled a business card from his wallet. Listen, I do not usually do this, but you seem genuine. If you ever find electronics or cameras and you're not sure about them, bring them by my shop. I will give you an honest assessment, no charge. Sarah stared at the card. Why would you do that? Because my mother would have. She helped every struggling person who walked into her restaurant. Fed half the neighborhood for free during hard times. I'm not as good a person as she was, but I try. He smiled. Plus, it bothers me when people throw away perfectly good electronics because they do not know any better. Consider it a service to the community. Sarah bought 3 of the cameras for $90 total. David quietly told her which ones were in the best condition and left the estate sale with more than just inventory. She left with something that felt like hope and maybe the beginning of a friendship. That night, instead of going straight home, she stopped by Chen's Electronics Repair. The shop was small, tucked between a Vietnamese restaurant and a laundromat, with a window display full of old computers and repair tools. David looked surprised to see her. That was fast. I wanted to thank you properly, and to ask if your offer was serious, about helping me learn electronics. Dead serious. Come on, I will show you around. For the next hour, David gave her a crash course in vintage electronics, how to test if something worked, what brands were valuable, common problems to look for, how to ship fragile items safely. Sarah took notes on her phone, asked a million questions, and felt like she was in the best class she had ever attended. You are a good student, David said, as he showed her how to test a vintage radio. You actually listen. Most people just want to know what things are worth. You want to understand why. I cannot afford to make expensive mistakes, Sarah admitted. I already learned that lesson the hard way. Good. The expensive lessons are the ones that stick. As Sarah was leaving, David stopped her. Wait, I have something for you. He disappeared into the back room and returned with a box. These are items I have collected over the years. Things people abandoned. Things I bought at auctions. Most of it works. Take it, sell it. Consider it inventory for your business. Sarah looked in the box. Vintage video game consoles, old cameras, electronic gadgets she did not even recognize. Easily $500 worth of merchandise, maybe more. I cannot accept this, she said, overwhelmed. Yes, you can. My mother always said you build wealth by lifting others up, not by hoarding everything for yourself. Besides, I need the space. He smiled. Just promise me you will do the same for someone else when you are in a position to help. Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. I promise. She loaded the box into her car, drove home with the radio off because she needed silence to process what had just happened, and sat in her parking spot for 10 minutes before going inside. A stranger, no, not a stranger anymore, a friend, had just given her a gift worth more than money. He had given her knowledge, trust, and a belief that she could actually succeed at this crazy thing she was doing. Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table when Sarah walked in carrying the box. "What is that?" "That," Sarah said, setting it down carefully, "is proof that good people still exist in the world." She told Emma about David, about his mother, about the unexpected kindness. Emma helped her catalogue everything in the box, testing items, looking up values, planning listings. "Mom," Emma said as they worked, "I am really proud of you." Sarah looked up from a vintage Game Boy she was examining. "For what?" "For not giving up, for trying something scary, for showing me that it is never too late to change your life." Emma smiled. "You are kind of a badass." "Emma, language. You are 42, working 2 jobs, learning a whole new business, and still managing to pack my lunch every day. If that is not badass, I do not know what is." Sarah pulled her daughter into a hug. "I love you, you know that?" "I know, I love you too, even when you put weird vintage dolls in my cereal." They worked until midnight, listing items from David's box. By the time Sarah left for her night shift, she had 12 new listings up, all thoroughly researched, all properly tested, all authentic. At work, Maria noticed Sarah's smile. "Okay. What happened? You win the lottery." "Better. I made a friend who believes in me." "Girl, that is better than the lottery." Sarah's phone buzzed around 2 a.m. One of David's vintage cameras had sold for $165. Then another notification. A vintage Nintendo had sold for $90. Then another, a radio for $75. By the time her shift ended, she had made $430 in sales. In one night. From one box of generosity. Sarah sat in her car in the parking garage, watching Houston wake up again, and did the math. If she kept this pace, if she kept learning, if she kept building relationships and reputation, she might actually be able to quit her night job by the end of the year. It seemed impossible, but then again, so had making her first sale, so had earning $2,000, so had meeting someone like David Chen. Maybe impossible just meant not done yet. Sarah drove home as the sun rose over Houston, past the Galleria where she used to window shop and dream, past the neighborhoods where she cleaned offices, past the Whataburger where Emma loved to get breakfast taquitos. This was her city. These were her streets. And she was building something here, one sale at a time, one kind person at a time, one small victory at a time. She was not just surviving anymore. She was starting to live. 5 months after that first YouTube video, Sarah sat in her car outside the Goldman & Associates law office and stared at the resignation letter on her phone screen. "Dear Mr. Patterson, I am writing to inform you that I will be resigning from my position as night cleaner, effective 2 weeks from today. Thank you for the opportunity to work with your company. Sincerely, Sarah Martinez." Her thumb hovered over the send button. 5 months ago, she would have laughed at the idea of quitting this job. It was steady, reliable, the one thing she could count on when everything else was falling apart. But things were different now. Her reselling business had grown beyond anything she had imagined. Last month alone, she had cleared $3,200 in profit. This month was on track to be even better. She had regular customers, a 5-star rating, and a garage, well, half of her living room, full of inventory that was selling faster than she could list it. The math was simple. She was making more money in fewer hours reselling than she was cleaning offices. The decision should have been easy. So why was she terrified? Sarah's phone rang. David Chen. "Hey, David." "Sarah, I have someone here who wants to meet you. Can you come by the shop tomorrow afternoon?" "Who is it?" "A friend of mine who runs a resale shop in the Montrose area. I told her about you, and she wants to talk business. Could be an opportunity." Sarah's heart jumped. What kind of opportunity? "Come by and find out. 2 o'clock work for you?" After hanging up, Sarah looked at the resignation letter again. The universe seemed to be pushing her toward a decision. She pressed send before she could change her mind. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Sarah trained her replacement, a young guy named Marcus who reminded her of herself 5 months ago, desperate and trying, while simultaneously ramping up her reselling. She wanted to make sure she had enough saved to survive if things went wrong. Emma noticed the change. "You seem stressed." "I quit my job," Sarah blurted out. Emma dropped the spoon she was holding. It clattered against their kitchen counter. "You what?" "I quit the cleaning job. My last day is Friday." "Mom, are you sure about this? What if the reselling thing does not work out? Then I will find another job." "But Emma, I am making more money now than I was cleaning offices, and I am not destroying my body doing it. I have to take this chance." Emma was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Okay, I trust you." Those 4 words meant everything. Sarah's last night at Goldman & Associates was bittersweet. Maria had brought cupcakes, slightly smashed from being in her bag, but the thought was there. "I cannot believe you're actually leaving," Maria said as they sat in the break room one final time. "Who am I going to complain to during our 3 a.m. break? You have my number. Text me your complaints." "It is not the same." Maria hugged her tight. "I am proud of you, you know. Most people just talk about changing their lives. You actually did it." Hector, the supervisor, shook her hand. "Good luck, Sarah. You were one of the good ones." Walking out of that building for the last time, Sarah felt lighter and more terrified than she had ever been. No more steady paycheck, no more predictable schedule, just her inventory, and the wild hope that she could make this work. The meeting with David's friend happened the next afternoon. The woman's name was Patricia Okonkwo, and she ran a vintage clothing and goods shop called Retro Revival in Montrose. "David tells me you have an eye for quality items," Patricia said, her Nigerian accent thick and musical. She was tall, elegant, with hair wrapped in a colorful headscarf and presence that filled the room. "I am learning," Sarah said modestly. "Do not be humble. David does not waste my time with amateurs." Patricia pulled out her phone, showed Sarah her inventory tracking system. "I have been running this shop for 8 years. I do well, but I cannot be everywhere at once. I need someone who can source inventory for me, someone who knows value, who has connections, who can find the hidden gems at estate sales and thrift stores." Sarah's pulse quickened. "You want to hire me?" "Not exactly. I want to partner with you. You source items, I display and sell them in my shop. We split the profits 70-30 your favor, because you are doing the hard work. I provide the storefront, the foot traffic, the credibility." "Why would you do this? You do not even know me." Patricia smiled. "David Chen is the best judge of character I know. If he trusts you, I trust you. Plus, I know what it is like to be a woman building something from nothing. I came to Houston 15 years ago with 2 suitcases and a dream. Other people helped me. Now I help others. That is how it works." Sarah felt like the universe was conspiring in her favor. "When would we start?" "Immediately. I need vintage denim, leather goods, and retro electronics." "Can you handle that?" "Yes," Sarah said without hesitation. They shook hands and Sarah walked out of Retro Revival with a business partner and a future that suddenly looked very different from anything she had imagined. But of course, life never makes things easy. 3 days later, Sarah's car died. Not the grinding noise kind of problem. The completely stopped working in the middle of Westheimer Road during rush hour kind of problem. Bobby the mechanic delivered the bad news. "Transmission is gone. Repair would cost more than the car is worth. I am sorry, Sarah." Sarah sat in Bobby's waiting area, surrounded by the smell of motor oil and despair, and did the math. Her savings had just hit $5,000. A replacement car would take most of that. Without a car, she could not source inventory. Without inventory, she could not fulfill her partnership with Patricia. Without income, she could not pay rent. She had quit her steady job for this. "Stupid," she whispered to herself. "So stupid." Emma found her sitting on their apartment steps that evening, head in her hands. "Mom?" "What happened?" Sarah told her everything. The dead car, the savings wiped out, the perfect storm of bad timing. "So what are you going to do?" Emma asked. "I do not know. Take the bus to thrift stores? Carry inventory on my back like some kind of vintage clothes pack mule?" Emma laughed despite the situation. "That would be a sight. It is not funny, Emma. I quit my job. I thought I had it all figured out, and now—" "Mom, stop!" Emma sat next to her on the steps. "You have $5,000 saved. 5 months ago, we had $47. You have a business partner who believes in you. You have David teaching you stuff. You have customers who love your products. One broken car does not erase all of that. But Buy a cheap car, like the cheapest running car you can find. Use the rest of your savings as a safety net, and keep going. That is what you have been teaching me, right? Keep going. Sarah looked at her daughter, this incredible human she had somehow raised despite everything, and felt something shift inside her. When did you become the adult in this relationship? Sometime around when you started crying over shipping labels. They both laughed, and it felt good, like releasing pressure from a valve about to explode. Sarah bought a $2,000 Honda Accord with 190,000 miles on it. It was ugly, it smelled weird, and the radio only worked on AM stations. But it ran. She spent the next week sourcing like her life depended on it, because it kind of did. Estate sales, thrift stores, clearance racks, anywhere she could find quality items at low prices. She delivered her first batch to Patricia's shop. Vintage Levi's jeans, a collection of retro band t-shirts, 3 vintage leather jackets, and a set of mid-century modern lamps. Patricia examined everything carefully, then smiled. You have good taste. These will sell fast. They did. Within a week, Sarah's cut was $800. The week after that, $900. She was not just surviving anymore. She was thriving. One evening, Sarah and Emma celebrated at their favorite taqueria near downtown. Real celebration, not just dollar menu items. To Mom's ugly car and beautiful business, Emma toasted with her horchata. To daughters who are smarter than their mothers, Sarah replied. As they ate, Sarah thought about that night 5 months ago, cleaning offices at 3 a.m., watching a random YouTube video because she was too tired to do anything else. She thought about all the moments since then, the mistakes, the victories, the kindness of strangers who became friends. Emma, Sarah said, thank you. For what? For believing in me, when I did not believe in myself. Emma reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. Always, Mom, always. Outside, Houston glowed in the twilight, a city of millions of stories, millions of struggles, millions of people just trying to make it through another day. Sarah was one of them. But now she was also someone else, a business owner, a partner, a woman who had bet on herself and was winning. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, Sarah Martinez was not afraid of uncertainty. She was ready for it. 8 months after that random YouTube video changed her life, Sarah Martinez stood in her own booth at the Houston Vintage Market, watching people browse through her carefully curated collection of retro items. It was a Saturday in March, and the weather was perfect. That brief window of Texas spring before the suffocating heat arrived. Her booth was modest but professional, a banner with her business name, Second Chances Vintage, racks of carefully organized clothing, shelves of tested electronics, and a small table where Emma sat managing sales on a tablet. Mum, we just sold the vintage Astros jacket, Emma said, grinning. The one from 1987? Good. I knew someone would appreciate it. Sarah watched a young couple examine a vintage record player, the same kind David had taught her to test and repair. She had come so far from those first clumsy days of scanning random items at Goodwill. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maria. Look at you. Saw your booth on Instagram. So proud. Miss you at 3 a.m. though. Marcus is not as fun. Sarah smiled and typed back, visit me sometime when you are awake. I will give you the friend discount. The partnership with Patricia had exceeded all expectations. Retro Revival had become one of Montrose's most popular vintage shops, and Sarah's sourcing skills were a big part of that success. Between the shop, her online sales, and now these weekend market booths, Sarah was making more than she had ever imagined possible. Last month she had cleared $6,000 profit. This month was tracking even higher, but it was not just about the money. Though the money certainly helped, Emma had new shoes, new clothes, school supplies without Sarah checking price tags first. They had moved to a better apartment, one with working appliances and no mysterious stains. Sarah had health insurance for the first time in years, yet the real change was deeper. Sarah felt like herself again, or maybe like a version of herself she had never been before, confident, capable, not just surviving, but building. Excuse me, a voice said, pulling Sarah from her thoughts. A young woman stood there, probably late 20s, with tired eyes and a nervous smile. I love your booth. Everything is so well organized. How long have you been doing this? About 8 months, Sarah said. Really? Only 8 months? It looks so professional. I have been thinking about starting something like this, but I do not know where to begin. Sarah saw herself in this woman. The uncertainty, the fear, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, there was another way. Can I tell you something? Sarah asked. 8 months ago, I was working as a night cleaner, drowning in bills, and I had $47 in my bank account. The woman's eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously, I stumbled on a YouTube video at 3 in the morning, decided to try reselling, and made every mistake you can imagine. Lost money on fake items, shipped things incorrectly, almost gave up a dozen times. But you kept going. I kept going, and I found people who helped me, mentors, partners, friends. My daughter believed in me when I did not believe in myself. That made all the difference. The young woman was quiet for a moment, then asked softly, "Do you think someone like me could do it? I am a single mum working 2 jobs and I am just so tired all the time." Sarah felt her throat tighten. She pulled out one of her new business cards, professional ones, not the ones she had printed at home on her dying printer. "Here is my number. Text me. I will help you get started, no charge, because someone helped me, and that is how this works." The woman looked at the card like it was made of gold. "Thank you, you have no idea what this means." "I think I do," Sarah said. After the woman left, Emma looked at her mother with raised eyebrows. "You are going to help train your competition?" "She is not competition, baby. There is enough struggle to go around. We should share the solutions too." Emma just shook her head, smiling. "You are something else, Mum." The day was profitable. They sold nearly $1,500 worth of inventory. But Sarah felt even better about the connections she had made. 3 people had asked for advice. 2 had shared their own reselling stories. One older gentleman had told her about his late wife's vintage jewelry collection and asked if Sarah would help him sell it fairly. This was community. This was purpose. This was what she had been missing while scrubbing conference room tables at 3 a.m. As they packed up at the end of the day, David Chen appeared carrying a box. "David, what are you doing here?" "Cannot miss Sarah Martinez's market debut. Plus, I brought you something." He set down the box. "More abandoned electronics from the shop. Consider it continued investment in your success. David, you have already given me so much, and you have given it forward to others. I see your posts online, helping new resellers, sharing knowledge. My mother would have liked you very much." He smiled. "Besides, these items are just collecting dust. Let them have a second life." After David left, Sarah examined the contents. Vintage game consoles, old cameras, radios. Easily $1,000 in potential inventory, gifted freely because someone believed in paying it forward. "Mum," Emma said quietly, "can I tell you something?" "Always. I used to be embarrassed when you worked as a cleaner. Not because of you, but because of what other kids said. Kids can be mean about that stuff." Sarah's heart sank. "Emma, let me finish. But now I am proud. Not because you make more money, but because you are so brave. You could have stayed safe in that job forever, but you took a chance, you built something, and you help other people do the same." Emma's eyes were shiny. "You are my hero, Mom." Sarah pulled her daughter into a hug, right there in the middle of the market, surrounded by vintage clothes and old electronics and the life they had built together. "You are mine too, baby. None of this would have happened without you." That evening, back at their new apartment, the one with the working air conditioning and the bathroom that did not have suspicious stains, Sarah sat at her actual desk in her actual office space. Okay, it was a corner of the living room, but still, and opened her laptop. She had been thinking about this for weeks, now felt like the right time. Sarah opened YouTube and started recording. "Hi, my name is Sarah Martinez. 8 months ago, I was a 42-year-old single mom working as a night cleaner, drowning in bills with $47 in my bank account. Then I watched a YouTube video that changed my life." She talked for 20 minutes about the fear, the mistakes, the fake jacket disaster, the incredible kindness of strangers like David and Patricia, the moment her car died and she almost gave up, the way Emma believed in her, all of it. "I am not rich," Sarah said to the camera. "I am not driving a fancy car or living in a mansion, but I am not drowning anymore. I have built something real, something sustainable, And if I can do it at 42 after years of barely surviving, then maybe you can too. She talked about practical things, how to start, what to avoid, resources for learning, but mostly she talked about hope, about second chances, about the fact that your life could change direction at any moment if you were brave enough to take that first terrifying step. Whatever your 3 a.m. moment is, Sarah concluded, whatever random thing might change your life if you just pay attention to it, I hope you find it. I hope you take the chance. I hope you keep going when it gets hard, because it will get hard. And I hope you remember that you are stronger than you think. She uploaded the video with shaking hands. Title: From Night Cleaner to Business Owner at 42, My Story. Within an hour, it had 3 views, probably Emma watching it multiple times. Within a day, it had 200 views and a dozen comments. Within a week, it had over 5,000 views and messages from people all over the country sharing their own stories, asking for advice, telling Sarah she had inspired them. One message stood out. I am a 45-year-old single dad working overnight security. I just watched your video during my break. Thank you for giving me hope. I'm going to try. Sarah responded, You can do this. Text me if you need help. We are all in this together. 2 weeks later, Sarah got an email from Jennifer, the woman whose original video had started everything. Sarah, I saw your video. I am so proud of you. This is exactly why I share my story, because you never know who needs to hear it. You are changing lives now too. Keep going. Sarah cried, reading that email. Happy tears, grateful tears, tears that came from a place of fullness instead of emptiness. On a Sunday morning, 3 months after her market debut, Sarah took Emma to breakfast at their favorite spot, a small diner near their old apartment, the one where they used to split one meal because that was all they could afford. Now, they each ordered what they wanted: coffee, pancakes, bacon, orange juice, the simple luxury of not checking prices first. Remember when we used to come here and share one plate? Emma asked. I remember feeling like a failure every time. You were never a failure, Mom, you were just struggling. There is a difference. Sarah reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. You know what I am most grateful for? Not the money, not the business, but this. Us. The fact that we went through hell together and came out stronger. We make a good team, Emma said, the best team. Outside the diner's window, Houston moved at its usual frantic pace. Somewhere in this city, there was probably someone working a night shift, exhausted and desperate, wondering if things would ever get better. Sarah hoped they would find their own random YouTube video, their own moment of decision, their own David Chen or Patricia Okonkwo, their own daughter saying, I believe in you. She hoped they would take the chance. Because Sarah Martinez was living proof that at 42, drowning in bills, with nothing but a cracked phone screen and a desperate hope, you could still change everything. All it took was one random video, one moment of courage, and the willingness to keep going when everything said to quit. Sarah paid the bill with cash, enough left over for a generous tip, and walked out into the Texas sunshine with her daughter beside her and a future ahead of her that finally felt full of possibility instead of dread. She had found her second chance, and she was never letting it go. 1 year after that fateful YouTube video, Sarah's business had grown beyond anything she had imagined. She was training 5 new resellers, partnering with 3 vintage shops across Houston, and had been featured in a local news segment about entrepreneurship. But her proudest moment came when Emma got accepted to the University of Texas with a partial scholarship. Sarah could cover the rest. Not easily, but she could cover it. You did it, Mom, Emma said when the acceptance letter arrived. We did it, Sarah corrected. Together. And somewhere in Houston, late at night, someone was probably watching a YouTube video on their break, wondering if they should take a chance. Sarah hoped they would. She really hoped they would.